Here is a nice picture that I just made here recently of Roronoa Zoro, looking badass with all three of his swords. If you like, remember to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for more.
One Piece, Chapter 137, Avalanche.
I think you meant to say Avalanche there,
Well,
dude.
hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the epic and awesome tale of One Piece. Here, as you can see, we have finished Volume 15 and are now diving into Volume 16, so definitely moving right along over here. The last volume and chapter ended up with, of course, an avalanche being started by the Laphans and the giant flesh-eating rabbits, and then, of course, Luffy and Sanji, and really everybody in their respective areas was like, avalanche, and they're all trying to get away from the destruction and terror that's going to follow. So that's where things left off. That is where things begin, and really this is a pretty cool action-packed chapter in the sense that we just kind of we see the different groups. We see Usopp and Vivi. We see King Wapol and his minions. We see of course Luffy, Sanji, and Nami, and when we see them all at separate times, trying to obviously escape the devastation of this avalanche that's been started by these crazed bunny rabbits. So it starts out, and you really see you see a lot of Luffy and Sanji, because of course they're like in the eye of the storm. The avalanche is right directly above them. Whereas everybody else is down in the village, down at the bottom of the mountain. So they've worked their way, climbing their asses all the way up, almost all the way to the summit of this mountain, and now they're forced to go sideways and down and everything else to escape the avalanche. So. And I don't know a ton about avalanches, but I do know from what little I've seen in movies and documentaries and everything else that these things are like, they're like hurricanes. They're huge natural disasters, especially if you're anywhere near or in the path of one of them. So definitely kind of, cool seeing how this is portrayed. So we get Luffy, who's still, of course, holding Nami and Sanji, and they're just trying to avoid, the snow that's falling down the mountain. I mean, a lot of it. So Sanji goes and spies a ledge over to the side and says, let's get over there, So they go and kind of run sideways to get there, and they're on the ledge, and he's like, oh, great, now we're... And then they go and they see that there's still more snow coming, and that's going to overtake and the ledge. Well, it's kind of funny because we wind up getting, they kind of go jumping up or flying up in the air, as the snow hits. And when they wind up landing, I was thinking that Luffy was going to use his rubber-like stretching ability to actually turn himself into some sort of, like, sled or, basically spread his weight out and allow Sanji and Nami to pretty much, like, sit on him or whatever. But since Nami's on his back, I guess that one wouldn't work out right unless he was, on his stomach. And I don't even know if he can do that, so I would just, that was what I was expecting to see come. But all of a sudden, the next panel, you see them, like, riding, like, what appears to be like a Christmas tree, like a pine tree, They're coming down the mountain, or an evergreen, and they're coming down the mountain, and they're on this thing, And as they're coming down the mountain, we get... the damn Laphans are still jumping at him and attacking and trying to grab him and pull him and everything else, Sanji goes and winds up kind of, I guess, sacrificing himself, so to speak, to go and get them away, and winds up in the process, of course, getting off of their makeshift sled, but winds up kind of saving the day, at least temporarily. Luffy goes and he's like, hey, you can't steal all the glory. He goes and he stretches out his arm, his hand, and goes to grab Sanji to help him, He winds up having to temporarily even leave Nami a little bit later on this ledge. He has to put her down so he can go and get Sanji and help him, and it's really just a shit show as far as what's going on. It's like I said, complete chaos. So when you get back down into the village, and we also have a Vivi and an Usopp sighting, and and they're basically just like, oh my god, the mountain's coming down on us, right? How are we going to get out of this type of deal? We then go and we see the actual village. We see. King Wapol and Chess and Kura Marimo, I believe is his name, and then of course that cool looking hippo that he had, right? That furry woolly hippo or whatever. Well, it's kind of cool because he goes and has this avalanche is coming, like, it's all gonna kill us, He goes and he tells the hippo, he's like, basically tells him, like, transform and go into whatever deep snow mode or what have you. And they show this cool diagram of this thing, and this hippo, I guess they're so lazy that they pretty much just like crawl around and lay, like crawling around, like army crawling, right? And so this thing looked like it was shorter like a hippo, but when it actually goes and gets off its lazy ass and stands up, it has like these longer, almost giraffe-like legs, you know? So it can certainly keep him higher above, you know, if there's snow or there's some water or what have you. And then, of course, I'm sure it can move faster. So King Wapol's, he's on there and he's, oh, good, you know, we got to go. And he wants to get back to the castle anyway. So at some point, too, he winds up, he says that either him or one of his subordinates say that they think that the Straw Hats started the avalanche to get back at them. You know, like they knew that they were there, right? They give them all this credit. They knew they were there. They started this avalanche to, you know, to get back at them for attacking their ship, you know. And then King Wapol also asks about, you know, if they have any, you know, of course, if there's any of the like the lifts that go up and down to take them there. And of course, they've heard from the villagers they're all disabled. But it's really kind of funny because as the avalanche comes down, it winds up actually as they're trying to escape, and he's telling his hippo to go faster and stuff, and his other subordinates are asking if they can have a ride, and he's like, "No, you fools!" And it's just really comical as I just picture this guy as just being this goofy ass, you know. Just the way he talks and his cadence and candor and demeanor. But so he goes and they wind up all getting buried is what happens. The whole village gets buried. You know, villagers are running, everybody's screaming, you know. And all you kind of see is like his mouth, you know, his big goofy looking ugly mouth because he's got that munch fruit power or whatever. So he's got this big sort of like almost like ape-like mouth, you know. Looks like a giant like an ape, really. I mean, the way it's drawn. And so he's like laying back in the snow, and you're thinking, oh man, they got buried, right? And then all of a sudden you just see like his mouth move, and then there's like this huge hole that comes in there. So he ate up all the snow that was in the area, you know, to get himself unburied, right? And then he goes and he's just like, and he goes and he spits out his little subordinates there, Chess and Kira Marimo and everything. He goes, I thought something tasted bad, you know? So he wound up actually to save them from getting buried, or maybe they just somehow, maybe he opened his mouth before the avalanche. One way or another, the avalanche came down, they wound up in his mouth. So, but luckily he did not chew them up and swallow them. So I still kind of would like to know the extent of his powers because it seems really... I mean, it's obvious that he can eat anything, but, I mean, what does he do? Does he digest it? Does he spit it back out? I mean, does he eventually shit out an anchor, a log, a piece of ship? Right? Piece of ship. A little wordplay there for you. But anyway, like I said, you know, it winds up kind of going back and forth. We then go, and the chapter ends up shortly after that. We wind up seeing they are going to go, and now they've got everybody back together, Wapol and his guys, and he's like, you know what? And that's when he asks about those lifts, actually. I told it a little bit out of order, but he says, well, that's fine. We're just going to have to go up the mountain, right? You know, and we're going to, you know, get back to my castle, and we're going to take out those Straw Hats, right? So then we go back up to, you know, the mountain over here, and of course they're a lot further down now because, and Sanji even mentioned, he's like, we were almost at the top, you know, when they were riding this tree, and I was like, there's got to be a way to stop this, but, you know, that was the only thing they could do to save their lives. So Luffy goes, and Sanji's messed up. Nami, of course, is you know, on the death's doorstep with her fever, and Luffy over there he's got both of them. And he's like, I'm going to save you guys. And he's just all beat up looking and tattered. He said to take out a couple of the Laphans, you know, that got in his way. Or maybe they were just taken out in the avalanche, you know. But it looks like there's one of them that he just, like, had to take out, you know. had to nail because these things are still coming at them. And just don't know when to give up. And the chapter ends with, you know, him basically going, okay, you know, I gotta save you two, right? I gotta save your life. And then you go and you see, because he's walking, of course, down the mountain. That's the only way to go now, you know, and everything else is buried in snow. And they must be fairly close to the village because then all of a sudden we see, oh, there they are. We're gonna get them now, right? You know, and that King Wapol had made some mention about snow combat and everything else. We'll show him what snow combat really is. So all in all, it was a pretty condensed, pretty quick chapter, to tell you the truth. There wasn't a ton happening just because it was so, you know, so action-packed. There was a couple of double-page spreads showing just the gravity of the situation, you know, the whole avalanche coming down the mountain and taking everybody out and just wiping out this whole village, or burying it at least. And like I said, though, just kind of cool because you can see that the action, of course, is starting to heat up. So all in all, like I said, I thought it was a lot of fun. My chapter question is, and I know I've been getting a little unorthodox with some of these over here, but you know, my chapter question is, what do you think of Wapol's subordinates? I call them his subordinates, his sidekicks, his whatever, his minions, Chess and Kira Marimo. Now, I haven't seen, of course, anything significant from him yet in terms of powers or anything like that, but just what the actual figures look like. I mean, just the way that they're drawn and they're portrayed. Certainly, Oda has so many characters that he has put in, and I've only seen just a speck of them, a handful. But, you know, over the chapters that he's done, I'm sure he's had to create and put together hundreds, if not thousands, of characters, and some are better than others. So what is your opinion, I guess? What is your take on these particular sidekick-like characters? And even Wapol himself, I guess, you know, as far as just the character design. So remember to leave your answer to that question in the comments down below, brothers and sisters. And feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button, if you think that I deserve it. And subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching you in the next one, Nation.
As always, brothers and sisters, thank you for watching, liking, subscribing, commenting. Here is Luffy saying, "Hey, come at me, bro."
That's the best you could come up with there, laddie.